Chapter 14, Bryce's Decline. Bryce didn't realize time had passed. He thought minutes had crawled by, but his body felt as if hours had been stolen. Every muscle screamed. His ankle throbbed violently, red and swollen, the bite already darkening with bruising. Nausea curled in his stomach, sharp and insistent, each breath a labor. Sweat ran down his back, soaking the collar of his shirt. He tried to stand. Pain tore through him, a bright, stabbing lance from his ankle up through his leg. His legs wobbled beneath him like jelly. He gripped the desk in the small office, knuckles white, teeth clenched. "No, no, no," he whispered, rocking back and forth. "I can just move." But every movement made him dizzy. Shadows of the ruined reptile house swam in his vision, fluorescent lights flickering above him in red and orange pulses. A small snake, one that had escaped a shattered tank, slithered quietly across the floor. Bryce didn't even notice it at first. He was alone. Not just physically alone, emotionally, morally, and spiritually. He had no one to blame but himself. He had thought he was untouchable, the one in control, the one who could impress, who could show off. Every friend he had brought with him, Mark, Jonah, Kyle, and Ethan, Jason, was gone, a victim of chaos he had caused. Every step he took now was a reminder that his arrogance had consequences. The venom worked silently, insidiously. The first hours had brought pain, swelling, and dizziness. Now nausea turned to a tremor that rattled his limbs. His tongue felt thick. Words came slowly, chokingly. Bryce tried to remind himself of everything he had learned from his father's lectures about the zoo, fail-safes, protocols, control, but the knowledge was useless. He was not in control. He could not undo what had already been done. He wanted to show off, prank his dad. He slumped against the wall, head spinning, stomach roiling. His breath came in ragged gasps. The bite itched and burned simultaneously, and every pulse of blood through his body seemed to carry the venom farther, faster. "I just need water," he muttered, voice trembling. There was none. Bryce rocked back against the desk, vomiting onto the floor, gagging until his stomach felt empty. Each retch made his vision blur, the red emergency light flickering and dancing across the debris-strewn room. His legs buckled under him, and he collapsed fully to the floor, pressing his hands to his ankle. Panic began to settle in. Cold, creeping, absolute. This was no longer just pain. This was loss of control, the terror of helplessness, and Bryce had never felt anything like it. The fear of dying is creeping through him. I'm fine," he whispered, the words hollow. He tried to force himself to his knees, but dizziness slammed him back down. His heart raced too fast, then skipped beats. He fought for air, gasping and clutching the desk. He could hear something faint, a small rustle. Perhaps rats were fleeing the collapsed enclosures, fleeing the larger predators still loose in the building. He didn't care. Every sound was a threat, every shadow a predator. Bryce tried to focus. He remembered the first aid kits in the reptile house, antivenom for some species, certainly instructions somewhere, but the building was trashed, supplies scattered, and access blocked. And even if he found something, he would need someone else alive to administer it. There was no one. I can," he whispered, voice shaking. "Just make it to the exit, get out. Then help will come, I'll get out." He tried to crawl toward the door, using his hands as much as his legs, dragging his backpack behind him. Each movement was agony. The venom made every muscle heavy and unresponsive at the same time. He swayed and stumbled, clawing at walls, at rubble, at anything that could hold him up. Time slowed. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Bryce could not tell. Pain and dizziness wrapped around him like a thick, suffocating blanket. The red emergency lights flickered overhead, casting long, surreal shadows that made the debris seem alive. The hiss of a rat, the gurgle of a pipe, and the distant roar of a lion somewhere deeper in the building, all merged into a terrifying symphony of chaos. He stopped, bent over, hands on his knees, gasping. Sweat stung his eyes. Nausea threatened to overwhelm him again. He pressed his forehead against the floor, tasting dust and grit and bile. I can't die," he whispered. "I don't." He realized suddenly how absurd it sounded, how childish. His own arrogance had led him here, alone, afraid. His friends are dead because of his reckless stupidity. And now, maybe he would join them. The venom burned brighter, a vivid, sharp ache spreading like wildfire. Bryce realized he could barely stand, could barely think. Each heartbeat flared through his skull, panic flared in his chest. He tried to drag himself forward again, one hand after another, but his ankle gave way beneath him. Pain flared through his leg, shooting all the way up. Bryce collapsed onto his side, pressing his hands against it, rocking slightly. I don't want. The words caught in his throat. His vision blurred to spots of red and orange. The hiss of the small snake nearby echoed in his ears, making his panic spike again. He tried to ignore it, but the realization hit him. He couldn't even escape from a puff adder bite. He was powerless. Cold, creeping numbness spread from the bite up his leg. He shook, teeth chattering. Sweat slicked his hair to his forehead. He vomited again, dry and weak, onto the floor. His phone is dead. No signal. No one could reach him. Bryce tried to reason, to tell himself he could make it, that he could crawl, that he could find a door, that he could survive. But with each attempt, each feeble movement, the truth pressed heavier against him. Bryce Kensington, the self-proclaimed master of control, the kid who had pranked, shown off, and flaunted authority, was completely, utterly alone. He lay there in a pool of sweat and bile, ankles swelling, body trembling uncontrollably. The distant roars, the faint rustling, and the water dripping from broken pipes, they were reminders that the world had not stopped for him. It had no mercy, that he had no power. And slowly, unbearably, the venom worked. Pain, nausea, and weakness all intensified. Bryce tried to lift himself, tried to crawl toward some imagined exit. Every movement was agony. His vision spun. His hands shook. And finally, the first wave of real fear, raw, human, unfiltered, settled over him. He would die here, alone. Bryce Kensington's last conscious thoughts were not of escape, not of survival, and not even of arrogance. They were simple, desperate, and human. I should have never, and then darkness.